Hi, welcome back to the Chamber of Spoilers, and today we're going to be talking about...
Nope, not today. My turn to rant. Hey everyone, I'm Sam. I'm the other half of Chamber of Spoilers. Usually, I'm behind the scenes working on the script or doing some video editing, but I have some opinions on some recent events. It's been pretty much confirmed. HBOMax is canceling Infinity Train, or at least put on indefinite hiatus, which is basically the same thing, but not official. On January 9th, Infinity Train creator Owen Dennis made an Instagram post of a Infinity Train yearbook dated 2017 to 2020 that contained several pages of unreleased concept art. While Cartoon Network executive has said the show isn't canceled, there's also been little promotion of the show. Cartoon Network has also announced recently that it's going in the direction of more preschool-oriented content, and even though HBO Max is a separate streaming, the two are connected, and it's just not looking that great for this show, especially since the entire crew of the Infinity Train has been laid off or reassigned to other projects since around the summer. The third season was in production when season 1 came out in 2019, so obviously they had enough time to make a season 4, but whether or not that's gonna be released is unfortunately very unclear. Given how HBO has been totally mum on the show, it's hard to hold out any kind of hope. Considering all that, it feels like HBO Max forgot this cartoon about a mysterious train that kidnaps people so they can work through their traumas exists.
All of this is your fault. Oh, no more tears.
Atticus, no!
You will cease your journey.
Why should I listen to you?
Because I am the conductor.
It's one of the most brilliant, creative, and darkest shows to ever grace the platform, and HBO dropped it faster than Bonnie stopped caring about Woody in Toy Story 4. If you're watching this, I'm going to assume you know the general plot. If you don't, I think 1-1 can explain it better.
Welcome aboard, new passenger. Mayamo 1. Once you wipe those groggy little peepers, you'll probably have a lot of questions like, the train is filled with all sorts of things that can help you learn about yourself and grow as a person. For example, you could see a fun car full of talking hats, or a horribly dangerous car full of acid slime.
Statistically, you're more likely to fall off the train and die alone.
Each season, or book in this case, features a different protagonist, and they're all connected in some way. Each passenger is given a number, and until they can get it down to 0 by working through their issues and adventuring on the train, they're stuck with no ways to get off and no way to get home. And just as the numbers can go down, they can also go up. This is some high-risk immersion therapy, people. Nothing like being kidnapped and forced away from your family for weeks, months, or even years to help you get through that awesome psychological trauma or mental health issues. It's not like that's worse. Nope. Can't give you any lasting trauma at all. That's one way of helping people out. It all started on November 1st, 2016, when the pilot was released on Cartoon Network's YouTube channel. It followed a girl named Tulip, the protagonist of the first season, adventuring on the train, basically trying to figure out what her number meant and why she was there in the first place. The pilot proved to be a hit. It garnered over 1 million views in its first month. I myself watched it several times. I was completely in awe of the idea, and I desperately wanted more. It took a while, but eventually, in 2019, I got my wish. The pilot was later retooled into the season 1 episode, The Corgi Car. Very little of the plot or dialogue was changed, and the entire first season aired in August 2019, within a week. It was originally billed as a miniseries, so this seemed okay at the time, if a little rushed. I personally felt like there wasn't enough time to really discuss theories, but the show ended with a message that Infinity Train will return. Now that caught my attention. I wondered, what could they possibly do? Then season 2 aired in the beginning of 2020. I freaking loved it. Season 3 aired in August of 2020, and I liked that even more. They were the highlights of a very dark year. While season 2 aired on Cartoon Network, season 3 aired on HBOMax. According to Dennis, the show was always meant to air on HBOMax, which probably gave them quite a bit of creative freedom that airing on a kids network like Cartoon Network wouldn't give them. On August 16th, last year, Dennis reported that though the team wanted to make more episodes, production had ended. Which is really sad because he's said through Twitter that he wanted to do a total of 8 seasons. He wanted to tell a lot of stories that don't get to be told, and we might not ever get all our questions answered. And honestly, that's kind of sad. I really want to learn and see if maybe 1-1 learns that this kind of therapy isn't very helpful, because if you're on that train for 3 months, when you get back, you've been missing for 3 months. If you're on that train for a year, you've been missing for a year. Yeah, time doesn't pause. There's a lot of consequences. The show isn't being canceled because it isn't popular. In fact, it's received critical acclaim. Both seasons 1 and 2 have 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. In September 2020, Paired Analytics found that the audience demand for Infinity Train within 30 days of release was 21.3 times higher than the average television show. And in December, Observer Media reported that Infinity Train was the 4th most watched original series on HBO Max since it launched. Okay, 4, not the top 3, but considering that Infinity Train is 1, a cartoon, 2, kind of aimed at kids, but not really, we'll get into that. That's insanely impressive, and, you would think, hey, let's make more. Its popularity was the exact reason why Stranger Things got as many seasons as it did. I don't get it. You can make a lot of money if you continue the show. But apparently, the executives think the show is too dark and mature for children. I'm 25. I love this show. I talk with a lot of people online who love the show. Most of them are like 15 to my age. Not the usual target demographic of many cartoons, and it also ignores the fact that kids, like 10-year-olds, love dark stuff. Okay, kids can handle way more stuff than we give them credit for. They can handle this.
Teamwork begins with 2 people trusting each other. But you're no person.
There's this huge, massive, completely false idea that I absolutely disagree with, that I hate. That animation is basically for kids, with adult animation only being allowing to exist if it's obscene or full of shock humor, like South Park or Family Guy or The Simpsons. But everything else, kid stuff. I know so many people who just completely disregard cartoons in general. They say they don't like them, but clearly they just haven't found the right freaking cartoon yet. We have books aimed at all ages. We have live action shows aimed at all ages. We have comics, we have manga aimed at all ages. So why are cartoons limited to this completely idiotic notion that it's either for kids or it's Family Guy? Why not have something in between? This is why so many teenagers watch anime, because the shonen genre is very, very popular for good reason. It has things that teenagers want to watch. I mean, frick, you think we'd ever get anything like Death Note in the US? Okay, don't bring up that live action adaptation. That's something else entirely. And occasionally, an American animated show might slip through the cracks, but those that appeal to a teenage demographic, like think Symbionic Titan, Clone High, Legend of Korra, the original Teen Titans, they get screwed by the network. So they are bringing back Clone High. So I'll give HBOMax props for that. But should it really have taken you this long? And the only show I can think that made it out pretty much unscathed is Avatar: The Last Airbender. It was allowed to run as it was and challenged notions of what a cartoon could be. It's what got me into animation. And I guess maybe Gravity Falls. Alex Hirsch gave no shits about what Disney thought, and you know what, Alex? I respect that. I respect what you did there. And the YA, young adult demographic, so vastly underserved in the cartoon community. It's thought that these kids, they're too old for cartoons. They'll think they're babyish, so obviously you gotta steer them towards live action stuff. But, you know, if you made things targeted to them, they would watch it because they want animation. They want art. You ever meet a freaking middle school weeb? You can make that and kid a lover of American cartoons. They're just not getting it, so they're turning to manga, they're turning to anime. They get obsessive about stuff. They're not too old. You're just not giving them what they want. And also, people think animation is a genre. It's not a genre. It's a fucking medium, people. Animation, that is horror, comedy, mystery, historical, fantasy. Literally any story could be animated, and honestly, I think that so many more things like superhero movies and epic high fantasies would work so much better if they were animated rather than live action. I mean, most of those movies nowadays are 95% CGI anyway. And also, what if Infinity Train is a little dark? Kids love that stuff. Okay, that might be a little dark, but this show is willing to take risks because it isn't aimed at little kids and at that underserved demographic. And Dennis believes that, you know, a 10-year-old is mature enough to handle these topics and these themes that are discussed. And also, you know, little murder in cartoons never hurt anyone. A 10-year-old can deal with a cop getting ground to death on train wheels.
What are you doing?
I'm as good as dead. And if my last act is to bring you with me, Sliver, I can't imagine a better way to go.
Well, I can.
The show is full of the kinds of problems that actual kids face in their lives. In season 1, Tulip's parents are going through a divorce. In season 2, Jesse is struggling with being a doormat and not having his own personality, while his companion, MT, later known as Blake, is struggling to figure out her identity. And MT's a great allegory of someone in the LGBT community figuring out who they are. And then you have season 3, which is learning about your mistakes, forgiveness, cults, and their manipulative ideologies.
Your number speaks louder than words, Void.
Okay, what is a void?
What is a void, Apex?
A leader who is no longer fit to lead. A danger to us all.
And how do we deal with voids? We wheel them! Wheel them! Do it! Wheel the void!
Wheel the void! Wheel the void! Wheel the void!
Okay, yeah. Maybe season 3 was a little very dark. But that's what made it good. Because we weren't expecting to see these things. We weren't expecting all that. And it's the reason why I love this. Oh, 10-year-old me would love this. I was desperate for this kind of depth and nuance in my TV shows when I was young. And I'm sure 10-year-olds today are just as desperate. And I mean, Avatar: The Last Airbender was popular for a reason. And it was popular among a very broad demographic. It had things people wanted to see. And it didn't talk down to its audience. Why should complexity and darkness be relegated to live action movies? And why should these discussions be limited to adults who have already made up their minds about how the world works? But nothing's going to teach you about the toxicity of cults and manipulative ideologies better than Infinity Train Season 3. It's honestly crazy how much it fits in with what was happening last year.
You're an infection! A rot! A poison! I won't let you take what's ours!
And not to mention, once again, animation as a medium can be used to tell any kind of story. And ignoring that shows a complete lack of respect for the medium. You think it's easy to make a cartoon? It's not easy at all. You can't just slap a few doodles down and call it a cartoon. It takes a lot of time, effort, passion, creativity, and work. Why limit that complex art form to just children? Why not share it with everyone? And I also don't get why, if you think something's too dark for children, then it's aimed at children. Maybe it's not. It's just thought that maybe like these teenage characters aren't supposed to be totally relatable to a 6-year-old, but rather they're supposed to be having issues that, you know, a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old will understand. Maybe that's the audience. Animation does not equal for children. And even if it did, to pull a show that clearly has an engaged audience just because it isn't what you thought the intended demographic was is ridiculous. I mean, freak, My Little Pony embraced the fact that it had so many adult male fans. Why can't HBOMax accept that it has all these teenage and young adult fans? Because you want to know something, HBOMax? That age group has something that young kids do not. Disposable income. If there was any actual Infinity Train merch, I would buy it because I am an adult and I can buy things that I want with the money I earn from my job whenever I want. There's still plenty of collectors out there, and I would love like a 1/1 plushie or like action figures or a sweater. So I don't really know where the execs went to school. You should go back and major in something else. And as much as I loved the 3rd season, it's easily my favorite of the 3. This might be what causes the death of the show. So what happens in this 3rd season?
But you're no person.
Just take it easy peasy, my little lemon squeezy. You're always with me. Thank you for being with me, Tuba. I'm going to keep loving you like you're still here.
And it gets complex, because not only is the whole season about manipulative cults and ideologies, but it's explicitly condemning white supremacy and incel ideology. You have Simon, who is white, a dude, has a crush on Grace, who is black and a woman. Simon is a representation of that white supremacist incel ideology. And while Grace definitely has her faults, she learns from them, and she eventually becomes a better person. And Simon is given the chance to change, but he actively chooses not to.
Simon, I know you're hurt, but I had to keep Hazel safe. I've made a lot of mistakes, but that wasn't one of them. We've been doing it wrong. We can still change.
Why would I ever want to change if I'm always right?
And the show has a complex lore, and each season can be watched on its own, but they each build on previous ideas and concepts, and there's a lot of connections that only work when they're viewed as part of a larger story. This is the kind of complexity I've been looking for in a show that I haven't been able to find, like, ever. And this is why so many people are drawn to the show, because even live action doesn't get this philosophical at times without beating you over the head with how white supremacy bad. This is mature, interesting, beautiful, and it's pushing the medium forward. And it's challenging the notions of not just animation, but television in general. It deserves to finish as intended. But if you want to save the show, obviously you can tweet about it using the hashtag #RenewInfinityTrain. You can get friends and family to watch the show. Watch the show more yourself. Make Facebook posts, make fan art, fan fiction, and even write to companies like Funko Pop or Hot Topic and ask them for Infinity Train merch. And also, I have a card here with info on how to contact HBOMax and their executives. There's even an outline I wrote. If you're having trouble, just don't dox or harass anyone. We're a peaceful fandom. Should the show end before its time, we will all mourn properly.
Don't be a worry, baby. No need to hurry, baby, when you're with me.